Really good win. Really good win for us at Nebraska. I was, that team is pretty good. And, Bryce McGowan's, in my opinions, one of the elite freshmen in the country who's not getting talked about much, but is really good. They're playing better, hard place to play, and in a night that maybe we weren't our sharpest, but I want to give Nebraska credit. But, looking back, I thought the second half keys, offensive rebounding, we had 12 of them. Obviously, Coleman Hawkins stick out. His plus 14 in the plus minus and his minutes. Obviously, Omar, his impact on the defensive end was huge. Obviously, he got some baskets and made some free throws, but his impact on the defensive end probably was as important to us winning the game as anything we did on the offensive end. Trent Frazier, maybe playing as good as any guard out there. I haven't seen a lot of other basketball games, but 29 points, 5 assists, 4 steals, 1 turnover in 38 minutes, along with guarding Alonzo Verge, who's a high usage guy involved in every play. Pretty impressive and was outstanding. So, it was unique that we basically in the game with Plummer and Kofi on the bench, but I think it shows the development of our bench. I'm starting to trust them, and they're starting to impact winning, which is a good sign. So obviously Michigan's up next, a team that is extremely talented. They have very, very good players. And, everything starts with Hunter. A guy that is I think was an second-team All-American last year. Very impactful in terms of what he can do passing. He's playing a little more out on the perimeter this year. But, and this team has got great size. So they're a team that's, when they concern me on the glass. They're a team that likes to play fast. Again, they get good opportunities. They get threes in transition, and we've got to be dialed in to all of that. But, it's Illinois, Michigan. It's 2 good basketball teams, and should be fun tomorrow night.
Brad, is Michigan's record so far a product of their having a lot of new guys, youthful and transfers?
Well, they had the #1 recruiting class in the country, and it's at some point, freshmen aren't freshmen anymore, and those guys have got a lot of experience. Caleb Houston was obviously a top 5 recruit in the country, and he's playing better. He's a kid who can really shoot it. He's a 6'8" small forward. They're starting a couple freshmen, but down low they've played a really hard schedule. Even their low to mids have been really good opponents, and you're starting to play Buffalo. You've got some teams that are good going to UCF, who's a freakishly athletic team. You've got you got some games in there with Arizona, obviously early. So this is a team, Seton Hall. This team's played some good people, and they're continuing to get better.
Coach, are you going to know ahead of time what players are available for Michigan, or is it a game time surprise like for the rest of us?
I'm sure it'll be a surprise for me too. I'm expecting all of them.
Brad, in the way Coleman has it seems like he's kind of found what works for him in these last few games. How have you kind of helped guide him through this first part of the season and then now to seemingly really understand his role off the bench there? Yeah,
I hope I've simplified the game for him. Early on we were playing Coleman at literally every position, and that's asking him to do a lot. And a guy without a ton with some experience, but not a ton of experience. Difference asking him and DeMonte to do different things. One's a fifth-year senior, one's a guy who averaged 6 minutes a game last year. So We've tried to simplify that role for him. I think that's helped a lot, and then he's talented enough. I want to do a lot of things with him, but I think this is a step that we had to make to help him really get good at his role.
Hey, Coach, sticking with the Coleman Hawkins kind of questions, he seemed to really thrive coming off the bench. What is it about coming off the bench that you think just makes him maybe more comfortable?
Well, I think everybody's got their own comfort level. You know, sometimes it's just seeing who you're guarding in person play, just seeing the flow of the game, seeing an opportunity. Hey, this is what they're trying to do, and not having to feel it right away in a starting role, and everything's a little bit skewed and fast. And you know, I think guys off the bench have a tendency to see the game slow down and have a better understanding when they go in. And sometimes they go in, they're fresh, and the other guy that they may be guarding or playing against is a little fatigued, and that helps. So there's a lot of factors in that, but he's very comfortable in that role.
What did you notice about the first battle between Kofi and Hunter last year, and what changes if Hunter now steps away from the paint a little bit more?
Well, I thought both guys last year were elite defensively. I don't think either one of them really scored on each other. You know, Hunter's an elite defender. You know, as is Kofi. They made it very, very hard. You know, it was a game that you know, we were effective in guarding them. You know, I think we did a really good job on their perimeter players, but. You know, Hunter's a good player. He's gonna pop out. They play him really in their big lineup. They play him a lot more as kind of a 4 than a 5, where he's out there passing. He's had a game this year where he was 3 of 3 from the 3-point line in their win against San Diego State. You know, so he's going to shoot threes. He's going to shoot 15, 17 footers, and you know, I would expect him to play out there, try to draw Kofi away if that's the matchup we go with at times, and you know, then put an isolation down low. You know, but he'll you know, they've tried to do that in multiple games, and I wouldn't expect this one to be any different.
Brad, having gone through it now, what's the dynamic of facing a team that's coming off a pause for you?
Well, the unknown. You know, I think that, you know, that works both ways. You know, you're not sure who's had it, who hasn't, how they've practiced. I'm sure we had a couple of days of practice, but you know, I'm expecting a full team, and we're going to get Michigan's best shot, and you know, I'm not going to look at it any other way.
Does Trent maybe just have a sense of, just when it comes to scoring, like when the team needs him to be that Trent?
Yeah, he's really got that knack, and at different times we've kind of saddled that a little bit, and you know, when we, you know, a year ago we had Io, you know, now it's him, and he's, you know, we got him good looks early in the Nebraska game, and he had a couple that didn't go in, but that's the beauty of Trent. That doesn't bother him. He's just he knows he can get on those burners and get going anytime, and he's got that sense, and when he feels it, you know, I've maybe taken me a while, but I like to keep going to him.
2 straight games now where you've had single-digit turnover numbers. Is there something you guys figured out during maybe the break that was causing the turnovers, or was it just a frustrating thing that it was just a whole bunch of different things?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of different things. Maybe it's a lot of line drill running for every turnover in practice. Has built a mechanism in their head. But I think it's just understanding, to be honest. I think it's chemistry. It's something we didn't have early. We were doing a lot of different things poorly. And now we've kind of settled in, and guys know where shots are coming from. And, you know, still our turnovers, for the most part now, are aggressive turnovers. They're not passive, and they're not letting people rip the ball out of their hand like happened in the Arizona game. So, you know, hopefully we've gotten better in that area.
Brad, you've embraced the bragging rights game, and that game means a little bit more. Certainly, Illinois and Michigan fans have had a lot of fun the last 6 months going back and forth. Do you embrace this rivalry for what it is after what happened last year? How will you approach that for this game?
Game 6 of 20 in a league game. I mean, there's certain games that, it's human nature. You're going to get excited. They're good. It's a good basketball team. Last season we were the 2 best teams in the league, and we had some outside circumstances involved that, whatever they were. But we know it's a really good basketball team, and it's 40 minutes, and both teams are going to compete hard, and yet it makes college basketball fun, these type of games.
Coach, Nebraska got really aggressive with Kofi, sent him to the free throw line. Is that kind of the book on him now as you roll into the heart of the Big Ten season, and are there some adjustments he'll have to make?
I hope so. I hope everybody fouls the hell out of him. Shit, I can't imagine teams got that much firepower in the middle to keep going. Kofi puts a lot of fouls on people. I hope that's people's plan. He's, he had a uncanny weird night at the line. He shot a boatload of them yesterday, and he'll be back fine. And I hope people take that approach with him.
Brad, I know the last kind of 2 games you kind of had a little rough starts shooting from outside. I know, has that kind of changed with how defenses have kind of been more one-on-one with Kofi? Has that been kind of the lack of kind of having some time off, or I guess what's kind of gone into that?
Nothing's changed on our end. It's probably has a little more to do with what our opponents do. I go back to Minnesota. They changed their defense against us. Instead of going under every ball screen, all of a sudden they're changing. They're at the level of. We've seen different things with Plummer. We've seen single coverages and not leaving him. Okay. W in the left column. So pick your poison, and those opportunities are going to come. Plum missed a couple 2 or 3 threes that he's never going to miss at Nebraska the other night. But again, when we needed him, Jake got one, DeMonte got one. Ball touched the paint. Trent made good pass. Plummer made a great pass to Jake, and so it's all. I don't worry about it. If we take 30 of them, and we're going to make a bunch, and if we take 14 of them, I think we're going to make our fair amount as well. So, just what the defense gives us.
Brad, if I could get one more on Coleman, is there a balancing act for you guys as a coaching staff? I mean, you see what you want him to be eventually with his skill set, but just to maybe do what works for him and what works for your team right now in terms of what you ask out of him?
No doubt. Coleman's really talented, and I get ahead of myself sometimes. I think he can do a lot of things, and yet along that line you've got to find confidence, and you've got to find a role that he plays extremely well, so they can always fall back on that. And early in the year, I mean, he was everything from our backup point guard and primary ball handler to a guy who we were initiating a lot of offense through to to now a little more subdued role, but one that he's very effective in.
Brad, I guess Joey and I are doing the same story on Coleman. He came off the bench and had a couple big tip-ins against Nebraska. Has his energy been consistent throughout the ups and downs of this season, or how did you guys manage that?
No, he's been great. His energy. Coleman plays hard, man. Coleman wants to win. He's competitive. And that's one of the things that has made him very successful off the bench is that energy, and he provides a spark. He's impacted the game with his rebounding. He's impacted it with his defense, a lot of times our best defensive lineups are with him in the game, so the numbers play that out as well.
I feel like you're going to laugh me out of the room when I ask this, but does Trent have maintenance days in practice? Because there's this idea that if you're going to play him 35 minutes and with the amount of effort you need from him on both ends, do I grind him as hard as I need to in practice?
Yeah, and it's a really good question because it's really hard with Trent. Trent gets pissed if I take him out in practice. Trent wants that. He and pods were going at it yesterday like it was the NBA Finals or the Final Four, and so monitoring Trent in practice, yeah, we have to do that a little bit for his own sake. But he wants to go. I mean, that kid is wired for sound. He's wired to compete, but we try to be sensitive to that a little bit.
Circling back to fouls, I read an article that apparently fouls called across the country are down, and various coaches have had various reactions to that. I wondered if you've noticed that and if that's good or bad in your opinion.
Probably is. They're not calling any on when Kofi has the ball. I'll be honest, I haven't noticed. I really haven't noticed. I think I think the games have been called, at least so far in Big Ten play, have been called great. I think there's enough contact, there's enough freedom of movement. I think it's been really well done.
Coach, you mentioned earlier in the week that Andre wasn't probably going to get back to full go in practice this week. Is he still able to participate, and if so, to what extent?
He will be back in practice after in a limited role. I mean, it won't be full go, but he'll be back in some capacity of dry stuff. Again, we're not going to put him out there, Derek, until he's in the kind of shape he's in. So again, it's kind of a one step forward, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And then we've got to reevaluate, but we're moving in the right direction.
I guess with Andre, is there one thing or multiple things that he just can't do now, or it just isn't able to do?
Yes, both. One, multiple. I mean, right now it's just everything's based on conditioning, and again, everything happens. What he does one day, it's the reaction to that. And that determines what he's been able to do and push through, and so we're gaining ground on that, which is a positive.
Another Kofi question. He sat out the last 4 minutes. Was obviously gassed at the end of the Nebraska game. Do you foresee getting him a little bit more rest earlier in the second half?
Yes. Yeah, I made a mistake the other night, and I let him wave me off of a substitution because he said he felt good, and then it ended up being a very, very long period of time without a whistle. There was another 3+ minutes. I trust those guys in those situations, but I got to do a better job with that.
You mentioned wanting to see this place get their rowdy on for this game and the Purdue game. You got any specific suggestions?
8 o'clock game. I can't say this. I will, but I think there's some fine establishments that a few people could partake in before, and just have fun, man. Have fun. Show up, have fun. It's going to be an elite college basketball game between 2 elite programs with rich histories, and they got really good players in the game. And if people can't come enjoy that and have fun and cheer like hell for their home team, man, that's what makes the sport special and these games special, and it's what makes Illinois basketball special. So if they happen to go out for an early dinner and happens to include happy hour,